Welcome to 𝗲𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗁, Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, 𝗦𝗃𝗃𝗏𝗄𝗆.
Hey, welcome everybody to another informative, engaging, and enjoyable episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. I'm your host, 𝗦𝗃𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm excited to have Mark joining us for this episode. You're going to be excited too. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I've seen so many of these, and I know you and I tried to connect to do this some time ago. I'm glad it finally worked out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And friends, you're going to appreciate it too. And you can be early and often and show your appreciation, not just by subscribing to the podcast on whichever channel you receive it, but more importantly, like the podcast and show your appreciation to Mark, because Mark appreciates you too. It's a mutual kind of thing. We get to do these things together. And as we kick it off, Mark, everybody is always just delighted to find out, were you born this way, or how did you come to the valuation and appraisal profession?
No, I was definitely not born this way. And I don't even know if I've fully become whatever I am now. I'm not really sure.
Got that.
Yeah, no. So to answer it shortly, no, I was definitely not born this way. I can get into a little here how I found the profession.
Yeah. Like for me, I didn't find it until I started buying properties, but how was it for you? Was there any amount of real estate exposure for you as a young person?
Like many, it was hereditary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my dad was in the savings and loan business, a bank executive during the savings and loan business, and was on a real. I was young.
Yep.
I was born in 1978, and I think all this happened late 70s, early 80s. But he was on a real rise in banking and took a real heavy fall in the savings and loans crash, and bounced around a little bit, but ended up in appraisal. Through middle school and high school, I watched him he had like a single partner, would do kind of commercial and residential and business valuation kind of stuff. And so, so I watched him do that and helped him occasionally during high school years, just extra dollars and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow. So you were part of the production team is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, and it super dates myself here, Michael, but we're talking about delivering a roll of photos to Walgreens and picking it up and pasting photos in reports for commercial. We're talking about scratching the little icons on the maps and cutting out spreadsheets that would fit nicely into commercial appraiser reports along with some of the residential stuff. So I really had an exposure to it early.
Man, that's quite an experience. And did you understand it from anything much more than, hey, I'm just kind of helping dad out? Or was there some sense of, oh my goodness, look at all this interesting opportunity out there that other people are taking advantage of?
It was, I think what it was, so it was not like even a glimpse into like real estate or appraisal of real estate. For whatever reason, that didn't really capture my attention as I was helping him. But it was, I think, an entrepreneurial example that really, for instance, this was a job that I would do during summers or something in high school that nobody else really had, and it paid well. I don't remember what the hourly wage was, but it was better than if I worked at the local restaurant or whatever that was. And my dad was an entrepreneur at heart, I think, and I was mowing yards, I was doing this, and so the dollar per hour stuff was always the kind of thing that I was really focused on. And his office in an office building that he would go to, and so I just saw what it was like to do that.
Oh, that is something else. And how were you part of Pop's production?
It was mostly just the assembly of reports, maybe kind of accumulating data. I wouldn't say that I was out doing a lot of research of the data, but I was accumulating, and you were putting paper files together then in assembling reports as they go out the door. Very much just at the desk, not in the field. We were not on a path for him to teach me how to appraise. I can remember going to a few shopping centers that he was appraising and that sort of thing, but
Okay.
mostly that's not what it was.
Oh. And from that time, like you said, it was you're focused on your hourly earnings. You're helping with the production. And you mentioned that your dad was actually involved in a number of types of valuations. Do you recall that was really the case for you, or you're just like, hey, grab this, make sure it goes there, copy, staple, paste, consolidate, go take some photos, whatever that might have been?
Yes. So he was in banking. And so I think business analysis was a lot of what he did and what he, like, I think the value he saw. And so when he left Savings and Loans, he bought a business brokerage. It was a franchise, and it didn't work out well. But he was helping people buy and sell businesses. And so he, I think, really got into appraisal from the business valuation side of things. And by the time I got there and was helping, it was mostly small commercial appraisal work.
Yeah.
He had a single partner, and they each kind of did their own thing. But he was doing kind of one of the rare doing residential and commercial at the same time. I felt I could see commercial kind of taking over his day-to-day activity because just more involved reports and that sort of thing. I saw mostly commercial at that stage and not residential.
Amazing. That is phenomenal. And how many summers did you get to work with your dad?
I bet it was maybe 2. And I had a girlfriend whose sister ended up working for him for a long time, even all through college. And that was kind of how he found some help all the way through. But even watching the help that he put together, I think really did. I was part of that help, but it really stuck with me on the way you can delegate an appraisal process, from the lowest of hanging fruits to answering the phone to maybe the highest of fruits, which is actually value determination and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, that is amazing. And so obviously life goes on, does what it does. How did that proceed for you, given that dad had been through savings and loan, got into business brokerage, then got out of brokerage and into property valuation, and then you went off and started the next Facebook?
Yeah, there you go. It went exactly like that, Michael. I had no desire. I just really didn't even put a lot of thought to being an appraiser. But the entrepreneurial bug had definitely struck me. I played baseball in college, not anything great, just Division II, but I played 3 hours away. My mom and dad made every game that I went to. And there was a flexibility in what he was doing that allowed him to do that, which was kind of cool to observe over a 4-year period.
Yes.
I got a liberal arts degree from a school called St. Edward's. And so there was like not a specific business training that I got. There was like general training. And the entrepreneurial bug had really bitten me well. And so I was in different entrepreneurial programs and really found my way into an interest in tech entrepreneurship.
I see.
A buddy of mine wrote a book on how to bet on sports when we were in college and doing all sorts of things that we saw.
Was his name Pete Rose?
What's that? Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, all sorts of things I'm sure I shouldn't have been doing. But we bought the domain name sportsbetting101.com, and it ranked really well in Google. And so we sold a whole bunch of books. And so I was interested in those sorts of things. And when I graduated, I was kind of wanting to go. I was in Austin and I wanted to get into tech entrepreneurship, but it was 2001, and this was the tech bubble bursting that was going on here. I kind of didn't have much direction. The school that I graduated from didn't really help me on a direction, and what I wanted to do, there weren't jobs. And Dad said, hey, I could take on a few residential appraisal accounts if you want to come on and do this. And
fascinating.
So I moved back in with them and began working that.
That is something else. And did you consider that an on-ramp or just kind of like a side hustle, or this was just akin to I'm just pausing. It's holding space while the next thing's coming into existence.
On a lot of levels, I feel like a lot of appraisers that I've met end up backing into it one way or another. And I think that's kind of my story. So I graduated with like a concentration in finance. My school didn't even have a finance degree. So I was interested in the stock market and that sort of thing. And so I was excited to make some money and have a direction. And so when I started doing it, I started to realize that, hey, this is finance, but there's actual physical assets that you see and can work in. And there very quickly became a plan laid out in front of me that I think I was seeking in the moment, because I was kind of aimless when I graduated. Just where what I was wanting to do wasn't working. And so make some good money. I think I had already had a trainee license at the time. So like I was like one step ahead in beginning down the road, but I had not gone, but was always a fan of Texas A&M. They had a real estate master's program. I always wanted a master's program. So there's kind of a path to work for a year, go do that, get a master's degree in real estate finance, basically, and then see where we go from there.
Phenomenal. And did you do that Texas A&M program? Very well regarded. They call it Harvard of the South. So, so from that standpoint, was that a full-time on-campus program? Was that part-time? Was that remote?
Yeah. Everyone that was doing it usually went straight from A&M undergrad to graduate school. Everybody, almost, I'd say 85% of the graduates wanted to be a real estate analyst for Ernst & Young or a developer. That not many were wanting to be appraisers. I went in knowing that I wanted to go back because I saw the entrepreneurial possibilities through the business that my dad had. So my thought was, let's go get the master's. Wanted to do that. It's a short track to the MAI. And then we'll figure out where to go from there. I knew if I were going to do what my dad was doing, that I didn't want to be a solo shop. I wanted to do something big. I wanted to make an impact. And so I think that was a large driver for me after I didn't get drafted, which wasn't going to happen. And I was like, just had to give up the baseball dream. And it's like, I'd like to make an impact one way or another.
What problem did those people have not seeing your intrinsic value for going to the bigs?
I was 100. It's a long memory from now, Michael, but I was 175 pounds and 6'3", so I was a twig. I don't have that problem anymore, as luck would have it. But it just wasn't in the cards.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Wow. So he says, hey, you come back and we could take on some residential accounts. Fascinating offer from the standpoint of why not more commercial? Or was that to give you your own lane distinct from what he was doing?
I think the residential accounts were available in the moment. And this was the beginning of the big subprime lead up, right? In 2002, 2003, that sort of thing. Well, so I think there was a lot of opportunity there. I remember Washington Mutual as an example it was kind of a spokesperson for the subprime being one of the clients, but I was doing commercial also, slowly getting into that. The commercial work that we did was small, owner occupied, typically office warehouse, single tenant retail, that sort of thing. And for whatever reason, there was so much more of like a known and a comfort that I got in developing value. Like I felt confident about my answer. And I probably, looking back, was a young, immature professional and didn't love not being very confident in like values I was concluding, especially in this small commercial space in a non-disclosure state like Texas. It's just it can be a mess. So I think I just found a comfort and a confidence in the residential for me personally.
Oh, wow. And you start working with your dad, was it just the two of you all, or did he have a bit of an office environment and some team?
It was just him. And I kind of said, if we're going to do this, I don't want it to just be you and I. Like, I want to try and grow something.
Okay. Yeah.
So we did something kind of fun. We brought in 5, I think, of my very good friends from high school that all went through college, and we trained every one of them to be an
Wow.
appraiser. In fact, they're all really high-performing appraisers in the general
that's
Houston
great.
market now.
See, I thought you were going to tell me that you created a new fraternity. That's kind of where I thought you were going. You're like, yeah, I brought some buddies in from back in the day, and we have the new Verrett fraternity.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it was. I think there was talk about whatever we were doing. We at one point, many of us lived in the same home, and we were all appraisers, and we were young, but we had gotten good at this pretty quickly, and we're doing a lot of volume and all that. So it was a blast to do, and over time, everybody kind of grew up, wanted different things, and everybody kind of ended up going different ways. But it was a fun 4 or 5 years growing that.
Oh, fascinating. And so at that point in time, did I hear you mention that you all were focusing on the Houston market, even though you'd gone over and gotten a degree at Texas A&M?
Yeah, and I don't think I answered your question directly. I generally commuted to A&M. Most people weren't doing that. I slept on some friends' couches, and it's about an hour and a half drive. So I could work and do that.
Love that.
Manageable.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. For people that don't know, Houston is a significant metropolitan area. I think more so now people are increasing in awareness, but historically they did not have any understanding of just how massive, from both a quantity of properties as well as literal size of a market area that MSA it really is.
It's enormous. It is enormous, and it's hard to cover the whole city. And in times that are slower, you kind of have to. So you just end up doing a lot of driving, especially on the residential side. But I know the city like the back of my hand.
Yeah, probably 2 hands to cover the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So you get this opportunity to get started in residential. Did you from the start know that's where you really wanted to be, or was your thought, you had mentioned MBA, maybe MAI? How does that ultimately play out through the course of your career?
Yes. Important to note that when I was at A&M, it was well publicized. It was an Appraisal Institute sponsored master's program, and there are several around the country like that, and I think maybe even grown a little bit. But this was one of the few at the time, and they would advertise to the students. The department at A&M would advertise to the student available scholarships that the Appraisal Institute would make.
Really?
The Appraisal Institute actually gave me, I think, 2 $3,000 scholarships, and while that is a lot of money today, back then that was
huge.
Order of whatever it cost me to go to this graduate school, and I was really thankful for that. And that was a driving force for my volunteerism that we'll talk about probably later at the Appraisal Institute for a long time. It's just wanting to give back to really helping me when I first started.
That's amazing. So you were able to receive scholarship, take these courses, and then does that mean you ended up being one of the practicing professionals that also has some letters after your name?
Yeah. So I have an SRA. It took me, I think it was about 12 years later for me to complete that. I didn't do it quickly.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. I kept trying to make myself be a commercial appraiser. I really did. And I've passed the exam at the Institute. I've taken the demo lock-in. I've worked exhaustively on a demo, pretty much ready to turn it in. And it wasn't in me to get that finished, I think. And I just had interests. I think it wasn't in me because I had interests elsewhere.
Yeah. Fascinating. So how long did you have an opportunity to work with your dad in the marketplace?
Yeah, long time. And that was, I think, it was the best aspect of our long father-son relationship. So he passed away in 2018. We started in basically 2001. So, and boy, did we he was half retired even when I was starting, and kind of decided to get back in because I was wanting to do something. And
Yes.
along the lines of thinking about appraisal from an entrepreneurial perspective, but also from like a systems and processes perspective, like what it takes to complete an appraisal start to finish.
Yeah.
I thought there was a better way. And I thought that I didn't want to do it the same way everyone has done before me. I didn't want to be on a track that was like a worn down track that was very obvious. I wanted to kind of take some entrepreneurial risk and think things and see if there was some impact that I could make one way or another. And that led us to an investment in an appraisal idea called 𝗬𝗪, which was embarrassing to even say out loud, but it was a very difficult. That was part of the reason that
it was exciting. I remember seeing it when it came out. I'm not here to throw any stones at all. I was close to I'm like, I think maybe kind of, and then I didn't.
Yeah. And
so you had some experience around that.
A really interesting way to dissect a market, organize or properties in comparable buckets, and kind of have a new fresh value on a property as an appraiser would look at it, twice a year, whatever it is, and you can kind of pull the appraisal off the shelf. And this was, in hindsight, this was 2005, 6, 7, leading right up to the subprime crisis. So I think there was a lot of craze going on. And so we tried that and met a lot of good folks during that, and it didn't work. We tried to see it through for a long time. But that kind of got me set on real estate data and different tools that could help value properties in a different way, and really providing like maybe more accurate, but also trying to provide a speed that satisfies components of the marketplace.
Absolutely. No, that's something else. So you get so you had that opportunity with your dad. Did you all stay together right up until he was no longer with us, or did he step out a little sooner?
Yeah, so he was helping me try to find the passion, to find someone that would meet the passion. So we worked together on a few things. In 2014, we moved our appraisal. I'd sold is not the right word, but we moved it into a group called O'Connor and Associates, which is a really big property tax consulting business. They're like the largest in the country, and at the time, basically only served Texans. But they had bought national data for their business, national real estate data from county tax rolls and the like. And they weren't just buying commercial data, which is what they wanted to use. They were buying residential data.
Yeah.
So came in and said, hey, bring your appraisal firm in and let's start building tools off all this technological tools off all of this data that we have here and see what we can put together. So around 2014, did that all the way through 2018.
Wow, that's amazing. Not many people get an opportunity to get involved with somebody that has that kind of big picture approach that is a name that isn't well known. There's a lot of short letter names that people hear about primarily in commercial and to some degree, obviously, in residential, but a very interesting opportunity that you came across.
It was Pat O'Connor has just an amazing business, a real started from scratch, and it was at the time 200,000 or 300,000 property tax customers a year. Found a way to serve lower home prices in property tax consulting, which nobody can do, but you would see truckloads of paper coming in the morning and truckloads of paper being taken out in the evening. It was just an enormous operation that was backed by some overseas stuff. And it was just just as an entrepreneur, like to get that view of what all he had built it was really cool to see.
That is something else. And were they also in the Houston market?
Yeah. So as it turns out, he operated just down the street from where I was.
No kid.
Yeah. So it was really fun. And while there, we built, I think, just ahead of its time, and maybe a few other excuses that I could throw out there, but built a report writer in the cloud that would kind of compete with the 𝗲𝗲𝗻𝗲𝗄s
Oh,
and
wow.
APIs of the world called
Yes.
ResiValue. And it had MLS data in Texas only, uploaded every day. And we were using it on live reports and had a few external people using it for a while. Now I see all these folks that have software that they've sprung up for UAD 3.6, and
Sure.
just a little early, but I was very proud of what we built there. I'm sorry that it didn't get to market the way that I would have liked it to. But, so that got me into kind of building technology around all this.
That is such an amazing experience to be able to be part of that. Especially, you touched on your perspective early on that you wanted to go do something. You wanted to go build something. Even took a little time over in Austin. I can't say that there's too many people in and around this profession that would make a pit stop in Austin as part of their technology exposure and industry experience.
I think just kind of jumping in and trying things different has been what I've wanted to do. Like I said, I specifically did not want to do what everybody around me was doing, for better or worse. And
Yes.
that is certainly not throwing any shade on anyone that does like that. In fact, I think it'd probably be an easier journey, maybe less speed bumps in a journey like that. It's just been kind of following whatever opportunities came up by the unique roads that I was chasing all through.
Oh, wow. Absolutely. What an amazing experience. So when you mentioned it was you and the fraternity brothers, or the pseudo fraternity brothers.
Yeah.
You bring them in and I heard you say, sharing with Dad, we should have a bit more than just you and I. And so from the early start, you had this understanding and desire for bigger impact, greater capabilities. Did that before I think you said 2014 and the O'Connor opportunity comes up, were you all still just that kind of core group, or had you already expanded to a larger size before this next opportunity arose?
When in 2014, 2015, we moved into a couple other metros in and around Texas.
I see.
The same group of guys that I appraised with early had moved on and gone off on their own for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
But we still had several appraisers, not a ton, but several appraisers in Houston, and had opened Dallas and Austin and San Antonio, and largely to be testing the report writer that we had built and kind of get that operational. Yeah, and so what ended up happening with all of that, I think, is one, I think selling technology to appraisers was really difficult. And I can say that of all the effort we put together, the sales side was probably not the one we put the most effort into, but it was a difficult process to sell to appraisers. And I kept looking around, Michael, and I thought that it was very obvious. It was like painfully obvious to me. I didn't want this to be the reality, quite frankly, but it was just a truism that appraisers, a group of appraisers, where we have customers that have national problems. Most appraisers provide like local solutions, and few are providing national solutions to those national problems. And in terms of it, I was working with a lot of AMCs. They needed faster, not a drop in quality. And I thought all of this could be possible. And what I kept seeing was that like sexy technology would be introduced as, we need this sexy technology to solve all of the problems that are out here. And that was not true. I didn't think that was a requirement at all. In fact, I thought a lot of the third-party softwares that existed were good enough.
Yes.
Residential appraisal is an enormous addressable market. There is a ton of national revenue in the billions. And if you can just deliver an appraisal with better customer service, and turn times, quality staying up, et cetera, then, pretty easy to go get a large swath of that addressable market. And so it was a kind of a come to Jesus moment for me to say, you know what, I think we should roll up our sleeves,
Yes.
just go build an appraisal firm using
Oh,
the tech that's out there, and
yeah.
then build tech afterwards after you've gotten to a certain size.
That's a fascinating perspective, Mark, that we don't hear a lot about on the residential side. And at the same time, also recognizing that the confluence of industry change, technology, and motivation coming together like that. So, how did that go? You mentioned that you were together in this new organization. I think you said about 4 years. And then sounds like you either created a new opportunity or a new opportunity found you.
80% of all businesses fail within 5 years, according to the US Census Bureau. With so many roles and responsibilities that must be managed and have nothing to do with appraisal reports, is it any surprise that it's hard to keep up? Much less having a sense of peace, stability, and profitability that comes from growing your business? Given all of this, you might already be thinking about exiting your business one day. Don't miss the limited opportunity to work with Michael, a real estate expert and professional coach. He has worked with more than 300 owners and entrepreneurs to find their highest and best use by solving problems that reach their most important goals. Compress decades of learning into days by working with Michael. Michael is famous in real estate and business coaching. With his help, you can accelerate your growth, increase your quality of life, and earn more money, all while ultimately doing less. Michael helps you not just grow your business, but also find new purpose in it and in your life. If you're ready to take control instead of being controlled, contact him on LinkedIn or email him at michaelh@pahru.com.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Around the time of my dad's passing, the application I had built was not, we were getting further away from going to market, not closer. And
Awesome.
it just seemed like it was time for a change. And 𝗬𝗏 had a franchise model that they were working through that was, it had been around a while. It was coming from Integra, the commercial firm. This was their
Yeah.
residential arm that rebranded. And yeah, they had several offices, but I think they were trying to figure out what the next move was, because the franchises weren't growing to the extent that everybody was hoping. And
Okay.
there was, so I had been a franchise, part of trying to get some of the tech we had built into a franchise network and used in that way.
I see.
And yeah, so I think the concept of growing an appraisal firm caught on with those folks. We were in agreement that made some sense and was worth a try and a shift from 𝗬𝗏's previous model. And so we just launched a national appraisal firm kind of from that in 2020.
Oh, wow.
And that's what we've been working on ever since. So we launched it literally 2 months before COVID. Michael, none of that was planning.
Fascinating time. So so you spent 2 years building this up, is what it sounds like?
Yeah, that's right.
2018
Yeah,
to 2020?
there was a period of time where it was like a holding period, I think, while
Okay.
𝗬𝗏 was figuring out what they were wanting to do. Frank Luco, who was one of their principal franchises and stakeholders, good long-term friend of mine, professional friend of mine in the industry, had a bunch of accounts. In fact, like FEMA. So we had Harvey,
Oh, wow.
and we had like 3 floods in Houston that were awful. And so we served FEMA in involuntary buyouts, doing thousands of appraisals. And so there was a 2-year period where there was a whole lot of need. Frank still works on all of that as an expert witness for the Department of Justice. I don't do those things, but so there was a need for our group to kind of come in and help complete appraisals while all this was kind of getting sorted out.
Holy smokes. For those that don't live in an area where they're going to experience FEMA, tell a little bit about that process. That's a bit of an eye opener for those that have never experienced it, either as the property owner side, sadly, and having to deal with that significant loss, or on the professional and valuer side.
Yeah. So this was a pretty unique problem. we get flooded quite a bit in Houston. I think nobody really understood. We've also grown tremendously. Houston's sprawl is very famous. There's concrete everywhere as we do this. Yeah. And so now there are, like, especially in outlying areas, there's you've got to take 30% of the land that you acquire and are going to develop and make a retention pond out of it. And we're trying to mitigate that. Of course, the state, federal have done tons now to try and address this. But I think the problem really was coming to a head in these 3 once in a century floods that happened over the course of 2-3 years. Memorial Day flood, Tax Day flood, and Harvey. And these were just the Hurricane Harvey was the one that I'm sure many know a lot about. But at some point, Harris County, 65% of it was underwater.
Oh my gosh.
It just a biblical level of water dumped into the city. And so in FEMA's case, some of these houses flooded 3 or 4 times during this, and they don't want to insure them anymore.
Yeah.
And so before a condemnation sort of scenario, there is an involuntary or a voluntary buyout process.
Yes.
And so largely that's what I was participating in is they would identify neighborhoods or parts of neighborhoods that they just didn't want to insure anymore, and were trying to get a fair value to offer to the homeowner that they would accept, and then could buy them out. They tear down the home and just leave it as vacant land. And it's from a valuation perspective, it's really interesting, Michael, because there is such a public component of the values that we're coming to. If a neighbor gets a value from us that is wholly different and doesn't correlate well with one on the other side of the street, they're on the news complaining about how they're being screwed over by FEMA and Harris County and all of these sorts of things. And and so it's just it's an elevated level of coordination and organization, I think, to make sure that the values you're coming to make sense with all the others that you have put out there. And the stakes are high when that sort of thing happens.
Significantly. What is the process of valuation, in the sense that I happen to be in the Chicagoland market area. I'm like, oh, look, here's MLS and here's a house that sold. Is it as simple as that? Or is there another level of complexity because of this, as we would refer to it, detrimental characteristics?
Yeah, so there were definitely, while we all should more often than I think we do as appraisers, there definitely is a prioritization in a known flood reality or flood likelihood reality. So flood zones very much become a central part of the appraisal process, as you might imagine, and are kind of central in your sales grids and your discussions and in the comps that you choose. And Houston has a short memory, as I find that this is like human nature. I was in like the Lum library with the Institute as I was doing all of this, Appraisal Institute, and reading about disaster events in Australia and how quickly values return to normal despite being in an area that could have that disaster happen again. If they haven't seen it, the buyer hasn't seen it personally happen, then they start to discount it pretty quickly.
Yes. That is a great way to put it. And is it market value as of before the flood, or is it market value because of the flood? Or how does that timing go? Because timing, I would say, is a huge factor in terms of value.
I guess it would have had to have been the day before the flood. I think that was the offer in that case. Yeah. I don't remember with specificity. It's been sad to say, it's been like 8 years, but I think that's about what it was. When you get into like condemnation stuff, and I've not done a lot of that, so I wouldn't be the guy to speak on it, but you get into more damages and the calculations in that than what we did there.
Yep, that is pretty much adjacent to the condemnation space, and before and after, and a number of different components that are just greater levels of complexity in terms of valuation. They really get into it. So fascinating. So you get this gestation period, and you arrive in 2020, ready to take on the world, and then the world took on. new thing called COVID. What was that like?
Yeah, it, in some sense, from like an appraisal business perspective, it was very hard to operate, but
No,
yeah, there was more business than everybody knew what to do with, and you
absolutely.
knew that it was short-lived. I think
Mhm.
nobody could have predicted how difficult and stagnant it would make the market following COVID, which is
Yeah.
what we've really been living in over the last 3.5 years or longer here. But yeah, it's been a wild ride where there was some really aggressive growth moving into 30 markets around the country.
Wow.
And I love what we've put together, and I think we continue to get better every day, but just small things. We're delivering assignments in less than 3 days, not because our clients want it, but we do on average nationally. Very consistent service from LA to Miami. And little things. 65% of our reports go out the same day that we inspect them, as an example. And so we've done a lot of system and process assistance for the appraiser to provide a service that I don't think people can find elsewhere. And we're excited for the market to come back where that can be further appreciated, where it's harder to get appraisal work done in those sorts of ways.
Yes, that is quite impressive. 3-day delivery in and of itself is an effort. And it takes some real coordination. But I made a note here. I heard you say that you're able to turn around 65% on the day of the property visit.
Yeah. So we
That's
do a lot of
impressive.
work in advance, but generally, I think in all industries that speed is a consequence of technology and modernization, one way or another, because it equates to convenience.
Yes.
It's odd to see the lending industry not always that excited about speed, at least yet. But it just seems obvious to me that all industries that can get a service faster will get that at some point.
Yes.
Water just flows down. And so I think that is where things will go. And so we've been thinking from the very beginning about the role of the appraiser in this process, kind of knowing where Fannie and Freddie seem to want appraisers to be going, which is on some level this desktop economist that is putting their judgment on as many loans as possible throughout the day. And so we've been kind of working through understanding this really complicated regulatory environment, how to do that well, even before we get these new forms and all of these things that allow a lot more flexibility. And in some ways, Michael, I think you're in commercial more than residential. Is that right?
Yeah, we as parents do. We have 2 children. They're related, but they don't spend a lot of time together. So yeah, we do residential and commercial both in Chicago and in Dallas, and then we do commercial in about 20 other markets.
Cool. Okay. All right. Great. Yeah. I find that so many of the flexibilities that are allowed on the commercial side just are like overlay rules that don't allow residential appraisers to operate the way commercial guys do. And
Absolutely.
it's
Stupid.
just silly.
I've come out many times. I don't routinely come out and call things stupid often. I do. I just try not to do it like in this public setting.
Sure.
But I was like, what's wrong, people? I'm like, goodness. How great that you got exposed to that via your dad early on and have an understanding of what can be possible versus this, again, growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, Churchill Downs, the Kentucky Derby, you watch horses run with these blinders on. I'm like, can we please take the blinders off? Can we really open up opportunity and possibility here?
Yeah, for sure. And I think certainly wasn't seeking it, but I think all just the desire to do something different and maybe impact in a different way just led me to jump to a bunch of different things that were a little bit unusual. And then just the happenstance that my dad was doing both. Yeah, it gave me, I think, a lot of perspective on how things could be or should be that have helped quite a bit.
I think that's fantastic. And to have that type of commitment to a client, as you said, when you're moving beyond just being in a particular market and you can have larger, therefore deeper, broader, if you will, relationships with clients and have that service level, that changes things. People may not have even known that type of possibility existed previously, and you're introducing them to, hey, have you considered that this could exist? What if 1 out of every 2 assignments that we do, on the day that the property owner can get us in, because of a team approach, some systemization, maybe it's automation, wow, we get these things going and you benefit from it. Everybody wins.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's all to ultimately serve the borrower and the homeowner in towards this American dream thing. And I think it's a worthwhile pursuit. It's not easy, but it's just possible. So why not do things that are possible one way or another? Clearly, this is all changing a lot here coming soon. But I think what's unique about the real estate mortgage lending is that there's just no tolerance for risk or for something going wrong. If
Yes.
10 years from now, if you have a great financial crisis 2.0, nobody wants to look back and say, you got lax with AI infiltration into what's happening here or whatever. And so I think we have some protection, some level, in the adoption of a lot of the automations or even artificial intelligence things that are out there.
Yeah, that's a great point that you put in place about bringing that all around, and what a difference that kind of makes. So I heard you mention 30 markets. Was it first going back to your time with, I think you said it was O'Connor, when you expanded some additional markets? Sounds like you've been, I'll call it a broad perspective, for almost a decade now, is what I'm kind of gathering. And a lot of, more so residential than necessarily commercial, appraisers don't necessarily get that perspective. Is that a pretty accurate assessment, or have you stayed pretty narrowly focused in Houston?
Yeah, I think I'd say I am trying to pursue something a little different than what most are trying to pursue. And it's trying to satisfy a lender client, as an example, on a national, who is operating on a national level. And you could see this like in the franchise business that 𝗬𝗏 was, or the franchise
Yes.
model that they were, where even it was a franchise network of the best firms in their cities. They were awesome, but nobody wanted to work the way the other did. They built their great businesses the way that they built them. And you couldn't bring national solutions the way I saw it to
Yeah.
national clients. And if you can solve problems for them, then I think we can be valuable and want to be used. And so therein lies the business opportunity.
Phenomenal. And so when you got involved in it's 𝗬𝗏, correct?
𝗬𝗏, that's
I
right.
want to make sure I don't mispronounce it. Your brain starts reading and I'm like, no, I'm pretty clear there. From that approach, you had some experience around franchising, you get involved in this. Does it stay franchise, or do you end up, I know in a number of cases, people actually go in, I was just looking at something the other day, they literally collapsed what the previous structure was and brought something new into existence. It was pretty interesting. I'm getting the sense that maybe, did you do something like this, or have you evolved things from when you got involved?
Yeah, that was essentially it. It was a very tough road, but yeah, 𝗬𝗏 which is what our official name began as like a master or mega franchise,
Okay.
but quickly took over the direction
Yeah.
of where we were going. And so we are not a franchise network at this point. And yeah, so we are a national appraisal firm. That's essentially
wow.
what we are, and operate that way.
That's amazing. And still in the 30 markets?
Yeah, maybe a few less in this moment, given
Yeah, of course.
you know.
The way things are going. Wow, that's phenomenal. And so what's it like, having started out being part of Dad's production team, Pop's production, and here you are having now a leader in a near nationwide residential appraisal firm?
Yeah, it's a windy road. Certainly not something that anybody would set out to on a course to do one way or another. But I think it's just do, learn, correct kind of thing. When I've just followed down through there. I am certainly in awe and very humble about leading a group of people one way or another, no matter whether it's business or not. And I take that responsibility. It's a very heavy responsibility, I think, and can be difficult in historically quiet times like we're living through in mortgage.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a responsibility I welcome, and I'm glad I've done everything I've done so far.
Wow, Mark, that's phenomenal. So, given everything you've seen and everything you've learned and experienced, what are you optimistic about or looking forward to over the next 3 to 5 years?
I have chosen to operate in the interest rate business, and that was a choice that I made. I probably should, before we conclude at some point, Michael, talk a little bit about the volunteerism with the Institute, because that
I'd love to. Yeah, that'd be great if you don't mind.
Yeah. But, I think to answer your question first, I think we're on the residential side, we're in a really interesting moment where rightfully a lot of appraisers and those training to be appraisers have left the industry, and just haven't been enough work. And I think the work is going to return. We've had this lock-in effect, and as rates improve, whether it's this year, next year, or the following year, we're going to be in a situation where we have steep improvement in order appraisal volume, even with waivers and other technological solutions.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that those appraisers that have left are really going to feel the pull to come back in on a lot of levels. So I think we're going to have too many appraisals and not enough appraisers. And I'm thrilled with all of the artificial intelligence lifts that are there. And just inserting those, we're in the arena. There's so much change right now. And so it's just a blast trying to figure out how all the puzzle pieces come together.
That is definitely the case from that standpoint. You mentioned volunteerism and getting involved in the industry. Love to hear a little bit about that. Sometimes that kind of naturally comes up through some of the opportunities from one place of employment or one business to the next. But clearly for you, it's something that's been a piece of your professional career and professional development. Love to hear you share a little bit about that.
You bet. Michael, my video is frozen on my side. Is it not on yours?
Holy smokes. I'm looking right at you and I'm like, yeah, you're frozen now. Okay. But you know what? Here's what we'll do. Well, let's do this. The good news is I'm looking at that and watched it freeze. I got the timing, so I'll just have them edit that out. Do you want to, let's see.
Yeah, if I can adjust it.
Either adjust it, or what I'm just wondering is, let's try. Do you think it's on your end?
I do think it's on my end.
Why don't you just exit and come back in?
Okay.
And I'll just ask Ollie to just snip it, and you won't even know that happened.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'll be right here. No, I've got time.
All right.
Mark. All right, can you hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, it said, hey, Mark has stopped his recording. I'm like, no kidding. You got to be kidding me. It's like, ask Mark to refresh and rejoin from a regular browser, not incognito. I'm like, okay.
There we go.
Take what it has. See, learn more. I don't need to learn more. Actually, no, I don't need to learn more. You need to go away. We're still there. Just close that little window. And we'll take a few seconds here. So cut it from 50 to 50. Little timer at the top. We'll just call it 53 even.
We almost got through it with very little editing.
You know what? I tell you, almost like 9 out of 10 times we do no editing.
That's how our podcast is. We just never edit.
Yeah. So we're just running straight through. So Mark, you were just mentioning about doing more than just appraising and being a professional in the industry, but also about volunteerism and getting involved. I'd actually love to hear a little bit about all the different things you've been involved in and what you've done.
Yeah. Thank you. It has been an important part of my career that I wanted to mention. And I started out with the scholarships in graduate school at A&M that they had provided. I was really thankful for those back then. And it was like probably 2004. I think it was 2004 actually, where the Appraisal Institute had I was a member, an affiliate member because of those scholarships and just kind of kept in touch with it. And the Appraisal Institute has a leadership development and advisory council gathering. I don't know. Have you heard of it?
Yep, I did LDAC. Thought it was the one amazing program in AI.
Yeah. So cool. So I was very young. 24, 25 at the time. And,
wow, that's
Verrett
amazing.
was the like
Chair?
running the chair, I think.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I'm the shy little kid. I have no desire to go to this. And so I did. We met in Washington, D.C. It's like roundtable discussions with 100 of your peers, which was terrifying to me because I generally think appraisers are smarter than I am. And then you go lobby congressmen and senators on Capitol Hill. And so I did that. You are allowed to go 3 years in a row, and I did. And had a blast with it. And I was selected to be a discussion leader for another year. And then
congratulations. That's fantastic.
Chair and all of that. So I chaired.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, so you were one of the very few that actually went for 6 years.
That's right. Yeah. And I consider it such a privilege.
It is.
Such a great time.
That is rare air, as they say. Congratulations. I think now that I think about it, Mark, what I love about the podcast is every single episode, there's always something unique. There's a first, a couple we've already had here, and in the spirit of time, I didn't even get a chance to call those out. But I think you are our first LDAC 6 year from literally from chair to chair.
Wow. It was a cool, the 3 years was wonderful. I was young and kind of insecure, just didn't feel like I had much of a voice or it wasn't worth very much at the time. But out of that 3 year experience, the other discussion leaders chose me to be one of the 4 discussion leaders. Amazing. And then the group as a whole voted for me to be a vice chair and chair. And it was just such a warm reception to an industry, I think, that I really appreciated. And
I love it.
So from there, I was just kind of got involved with the Institute, was chapter president, and then served on the National Board of Directors just coming off several years ago. And boy, that was an experience. It was a very consequential and dramatic time. It wasn't all puppy dogs and rainbows, but did wrap up that service and just appreciated doing that.
Oh my goodness. That's phenomenal. I reiterate my appreciation for that program. I've had my fair share of things that I enjoy about the profession and things that I don't. And I remember at one particular time, this goes back, it's probably about 10 years ago, I was pretty sour on the industry and the profession. I just thought there was so much more opportunity and it wasn't showing up, and people were not, I had not met forward thinking individuals like yourself. And I was like, what's wrong with this profession? And I got to go to LDAC, as it's commonly known, and reconnected. Of the 100 people that were there, about 10 of the people, I was like, wow, you people inspire me to stay in this industry.
Yeah, it is. I would recommend it to anybody. I think you got to be a member to go. It is worth membership to go.
Yep.
I think that experience is unmatched in our profession. I don't think there's anything like it. And it is leadership development, whether or not there is specific leadership training. There wasn't when I was there. I think they've worked on adding that now maybe, but
sure.
But yeah, it is just being present there and meeting people that are forward thinking is developing leaders in and around the profession.
Yeah, it completely changes things. That's phenomenal. And you, by not only being involved in LDAC, you separately got involved in your local chapter president. You served regionally and then ultimately served on the national board. So what's next?
Yeah, I've got 7, 8, and 18-year-old kids. I coach my son's 10-year-old travel select baseball team. We don't travel too much, but so I've done a lot of volunteerism, and I needed to take a step back to devote to the kids. So I've been doing that while running the business. And I don't know yet. I don't know what's next.
Got it. No, that's fantastic. I appreciate it. If you would, I'm a huge believer in getting involved. I'm a huge believer in giving back. I believe many times, and I've had the opportunity across multiple organizations in different capacities, boards, many of them volunteer, some of them paid, what have you. I end up getting so much more than what I give. And a lot of times I give a lot, but it's always amazing, sometimes directly, but a lot of times indirectly or unexpectedly, how much more comes back. For my lot personally, personal development, leadership development. What's been your experience, Mark?
Yeah, boy, absolutely. The people you meet, the concepts that you're forced to think about that you wouldn't have. It is just a different and broader perspective on the world, usually around an entity that is done meaningful things to require the need for a board or someone to sit on it. And so it's just the Appraisal Institute in general is just such an inside look into the profession, not only the good things in setting the rules. Of course, they don't set the rules, but they kind of decide where to influence and where not to. But even to deal with some of the hardships that the industry in all industries are facing, with like a declining appraiser population, and why don't we need as many? Will we need more? And who do you serve, and how do you serve them? What are they looking for? All these things change, and I think it's just really horizon expanding to be put to these different topics and have to think through them with some bright people in a concentrated amount of time.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Mark, this is absolutely fascinating. It's what we love about the podcast, just getting a chance to hear some perspective and how the path has been and how much more there still is to go. I really appreciate you coming and spending some time with us.
Thank you for doing it. Thank you for following up, Michael. I appreciate the service you do to the industry and grabbing all this. And it's just cool that it's out there. Thanks for doing it.
I appreciate it. Friends, again, as we talked from the start, we encouraged you to be ready for the informative, engaging, and in this case, educational perspective that we've gained from Mark. And thank you for doing what only you can do, liking and sharing the podcast. Every week, a couple new people jump in like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was here. I'm like, it's been here for a couple of years. It has that kind of positive influence, and we appreciate that. So thanks so much, Mark, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of 𝗲𝗄𝗃𝗍𝗍𝗍 Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of 𝗲𝗄𝗃𝗍𝗍𝗍 Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.